What's up, humans, and welcome back to Small Talks, where I take my own life experience and a little bit of research in order to answer real-life issues and questions. Last time we talked about how to handle panic attacks and what they feel like. And just like promised, we're going to talk about how to handle anxiety attacks and what those feel like today. I want to preface this with the fact that I am not an expert in any of the fields that I talk about, so my advice should never replace that of a true professional. However, what I say, I hope will open your mind a little, or maybe help in a way that you didn't expect. Last time, we addressed the fact that people like to use panic attacks and anxiety attacks interchangeably when they're actually two different things. So before we get into anxiety attacks specifically, let's go ahead and redefine the two. According to Michigan Health, panic attacks are sudden short bursts of intense fear, often marked by shortness of breath, increased heart rate, and brief chest pain. They usually last less than 30 minutes and can seemingly happen without reason. While an anxiety attack is actually, simply put, anxiety, excessive persisting worry over an imminent event such as death or illness, or even minor events such as being late or another uncertain outcome. Symptoms include fatigue, being extremely aware of what's going on around you, restlessness, and irritability. These can be like the feelings you get before you go on a roller coaster that has warnings of death or injury if you don't adhere to its guidelines. And what's crazy about these things is the fact that they can happen at the exact same time. And panic attacks can be brought on by a sense of anxiety. Personally, I've experienced both panic attacks and anxiety on both sides of the intensity scale. But since we've already addressed panic attacks and what those feel like in a previous video, then we are going to get into what anxiety attacks feel like and how to address those today. I could easily argue that most, if not all, humans have experienced some level of anxiety. Now, some humans experience anxiety on a little bit more intense and frequent level than others do, though. Now, anxiety attacks are, simply put, anxiety, like I said earlier. This isn't to downplay the symptoms or how it feels to someone who experiences them, just that psychologically they are classified within the anxiety disorder. They aren't classified as an anxiety attack, just simply anxiety. Why? I would venture to say that it's because people who say they're having an anxiety attack are actually having a panic attack. Or if they are actually having an anxiety attack, the period that they're referring to as an attack is too slow building and not sudden enough to be technically considered an attack. So, simply put, anxiety attacks are just anxiety. And the thing is, for the simplicity of this video and to kind of keep things easy, we are actually going to refer to these periods of intense anxiety or just a regular level of anxiety as an anxiety attack. That way we can just have a good term to define it and make it simple and easy. As far as my own experience goes, I don't have nearly as much with intense anxiety as I do with panic attacks. Now, when I do feel like anxiety is getting in the way of me doing my job, though, I focus on things that I have already done instead of focusing on what I have to do. Now, for instance, my current job, I have to take important information and brief high-ranking officials via phone or sometimes in meetings with large amounts of them. And you could say that that's rather stressful or anxiety-inducing. But in these instances, instead of focusing on the impending doom, I think about things like, in the past, I've given a speech to hundreds of people, or I've performed in front of a huge audience, or even silly things like I've lost my pants in front of a huge audience and I had to pull them up and keep going. And focusing on things that I have done in the past that seem rather difficult at the time helps me to not focus on something that I have to do now and it gives me a little bit more confidence for completing whatever I have to do now. And something else that helps me is taking the time to calm myself physically. I start with some deep breaths, deep breath in and deep breath out, and I start to focus on relaxing my body by closing my eyes and starting at the very extent of my limbs and slowly working into my heart and slowing that down too as well. And then once I slowed that down, I start to think about what I'm about to do, and I think about what questions people might ask me and how I would respond to them, and think about what I'm about to say instead of stressing about it. I've put myself in a calm place and I'm addressing what I'm about to do. And if I start to feel like it's too much and like I'm getting extremely anxious again, I stop and I start over and I go through it again. I calm myself and then I get back to addressing what I'm going to do. And then once I do that, it's time to start. And by the time I realize that I've started, I've realized that I've finished. And now I have something else that I can add to the list of things that I have done and accomplishments that I have done instead of focusing on things that I have to do. Now, for those of you who have anxiety that's so intense that it's hard to even get out of your room, in my experience with helping family and friends that deal with this same type of anxiety, what I've discovered is something that helps is creating a checklist. And what you do is you break down the beginning of your day and little steps of your day into small tasks that you slowly go through and complete. And each one that you complete gives you pride, and you focus on everything that you've done, and you can use that to motivate yourself to do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and soon enough, you're done with your morning, and you're out and you're going through the day, and you're completing stuff because you're motivating yourself with stuff you've done instead of focusing on things that you have to do. Now, if you're here in order to help someone else get through anxiety, then what you can do is you can give them words of encouragement. Tell them what they're doing good at, and tell them that they can and they are able to get through whatever they're struggling with. And tell them that they are good at this or that, and just constantly encourage them. Don't try to force them to do anything though, because that just adds an additional layer of anxiety that now they have to live up to your expectations as well as they have to do whatever they have to do. And the biggest thing is to just be supportive of them, to support whatever they're going through and to not try to force them into anything. And like I said, I don't nearly have the experience with intense anxiety that I do with panic attacks. So let's look heavily to the research. Mayo Reyes MD says to acknowledge what you're feeling and to not ignore it. She says to talk with somebody that you trust, and once you've established what you're feeling, then to do something that helps you cope with whatever's giving you anxiety. Do something that relieves stress, such as working out or really anything that's stress relieving. But don't avoid or ignore the issue. Instead, take a break from it and use the time to get an outside perspective. And once you're in a good headspace, and maybe you found the positive in getting through whatever it is, approach it again and work through it. The Mayo Clinic gives some lifestyle tips in order to prevent anxiety and to help you be able to handle it. They say to live active, as this helps you to stay healthy and reduces stress. They say to avoid alcohol and drugs, as these only make the feelings worse. This includes caffeine and nicotine. They also say to engage in relaxation techniques such as meditation or yoga or breathing exercises or even visualizing positive environments. Sleep is an important one. Get plenty of sleep, enough so that you feel well rested. And if you're having trouble getting to sleep, then talk to your doctor about it. Monitor your diet. and do your best to eat healthy. Try to understand what you're feeling, as understand what you're feeling can help you find better ways to cope with it. And if you're already getting treatment, continue to receive that treatment. It takes time and effort, and it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. Try to understand what causes your anxiety, as understanding what causes your anxiety can find you better ways of getting through it. Journaling this and writing down what works and what doesn't work helps you to find the right things for you and help your provider to find a better solution. Join a support group. Speaking with people who are going through the same thing helps you to relate to somebody, as well as maybe find tools that help you just as much as it helps them. And it also gives you a chance to socialize with other people. And last, if you're going through a time of anxiety, find something to distract yourself. Something like going on a walk or reading a book, something that helps you to slow down and work through whatever is causing your anxiety just a little bit slower. And if you're helping someone else get through their anxiety, the University of Michigan gives this advice. First off, don't assume anything and ask them what help they need. Don't do anything strange or out of the ordinary that may surprise them. Don't rush them through anything. And while you should go at their own pace, make sure that they don't avoid anything, as avoiding things makes things worse. Make sure that they can see the positive in each small step they make towards recovery. And while helping them, make sure that you take care of your own life and you don't grow to resent them. While being concerned is perfectly acceptable, don't panic or overreact to anything. Be patient and accepting of what they're going through. And last, give them words of encouragement and don't say anything that could be taken as blaming them for having this anxiety that they can't really control. And just like with panic attacks, anxiety will pass with time. And if you are dealing with anxiety or panic attacks or anything like this, please, I ask of you to go see a professional. Well, thanks everyone for watching. I hope that this helps those of you who do deal with anxiety to be able to handle it a little bit better. And if it does, or if you have tips or advice for something that helps you, let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to my channel to see more of life's problems resolved, or share this with somebody who you think could benefit from it. And if you have a question for me, or if you have a suggestion for my channel, let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on social media. I hope to see you sometime soon. Thanks for joining me for Small Talks.